these things have been allowed to go on. And collectively, because it's out of sight, out of mind, it hasn't been on people's radar screen. But the solutions to them, I really, truly feel, are very doable. And it's going to be incumbent upon a lot of you folks, people in your generation, to really take the lead on that and to care. And ultimately, that's really all you need, is to care. If you care, you can do something here. If you don't, then this will continue. And it will go on and on and on. And as I say, you will be, like my generation, looked back upon as people who did not care, who were thoughtless people, who dumped people in jails and prisons because they were poor and because they were mentally ill. And so the solutions are out there. We've been implementing many of them for years now, and we've been getting a lot of traction. And it started literally on day one when I would go out when we would evict people. Because once again, the size of Cook County, second largest county, so basically everything we do, we're the second largest everything, for good and bad. So when we do evictions, we're always number 1 or 2 in throwing people on the streets. And so when I would go out on these, they were some of the most gut-wrenching things I ever saw in my life. And I just remember thinking to myself, what is going on here? How can this be? That here we are in the 21st century with this outrageously enlightened country. We have every kind of toy in the world to be connected to whoever we want, whenever we want, but yet we find the most efficient way to deal with housing issues is we take people who their chief sin is they're poor, and we decide to make it the most traumatic event in the world. Because why? Because we can. Because we're indifferent. Because it's not us. And so when I saw that, we were able to stop things pretty quickly by just changing the way we addressed it. By saying, listen, we're not going to treat these people as bad people who did something wrong. We're going to treat them as individuals who have some financial issues. And so as a result of that, what they need is help. They need counseling. And so we change it into a social work model where we go out before evictions. We go out weeks and weeks ahead of time. We meet with the people, we talk with them, we find out what the issues are. For many situations, there is no thing that we can do legally as far as trying to end the eviction. I do stop many of them, I do stretch them out when the case may be, but more importantly what we do is we let them know that there's people in government who care. And in doing that, what do we find out? We find out that we can make this a much less traumatic event. So we meet the families, we find out who's there. Many cases, I can't say enough to you, it's senior citizens who are by themselves, many of them suffering dementia, sitting there with stacks and stacks of mail, many of them with checks they've never cashed, in a house, and they have no one. And so we go there, we work with them to get them into a housing situation that's more appropriate for them, where they can get care, not just on the street. Because in the old days, that's what would happen. And it wasn't because everyone was uncaring, it was just because, hey, that's our job, we have a job to do. Our job is to evict people, we gotta get them out. That's what the order says, get them out. We weren't supposed to care. And by doing that, what I saw was something that would make us all sick to our stomachs and truly deserve the moniker of an uncaring society. So we go out there, we work with families. The number of single women with children is astounding what we're asked to do. We work with them, we find them transportation if they need it. We work with them on housing issues as well. We work with them on any medical needs they have, and we work with getting their kids into school in the new area that they're going to be going to. So there isn't this gap, so their kids are not going to suffer from the fact because their mother does not have the finances to keep them in that location. So we did these things, and the thing that was so beautiful about it was that we were able to do it without having to have any type of major initiative on the governmental level. All we had to do was care. And it's one of the many reasons. People think I'm out of my mind for many reasons, and I probably am. But I really love my job. I love it because it is the most liberating job in the world. That if you care, you can get things done. You can do it immediately. Back in the old days when Jack's father and I worked down in Springfield, it was so frustrating. It was so frustrating. To do anything, you had to get your whole party on board. You had to get permission of the leader of your party. You had to be making sure that you weren't upsetting anybody. Well, if you're not upsetting anybody, I would suggest to you, you're not getting anything done. And so the number of times you can actually accomplish it was next to nothing, in my opinion. And here in the sheriff's office, though, we can just do whatever we feel is right and sort of let the chips fall where they may. Because people always ask me, well, who's your boss? And it's like, wow, the beauty of it is I don't have one. I understand at this point in my life, given my way I operate, I am absolutely unemployable if I ever leave the sheriff's office. Because the only people I have to appeal to are the voters and let them know that I care. And if they don't like it, fine, then I can go on with some other aspect of my life if I choose to. But we were able, when the eviction crisis hit and I was of the opinion we needed to change this, we literally did it overnight. Didn't have to clear it with anybody, didn't have to talk to anybody about it. We just did it. And it's been that same type of attitude that we've been able to take in all these other areas. So when I decided that mentally ill people did not deserve to be incarcerated because they have an illness, we were able to change that. And we were able to change it in many different ways. We do all sorts of things that have become the national model for treating people with mental illnesses in jails. But we also do it for people who are poor. And once again, in a society that we believe we all live in, would anybody for 2 seconds believe that we live in a place where we lock people up because they're poor? Of course you would all say, of course not. We're in America, we don't do that. I'm here to tell you we absolutely do that. Absolutely do it. We do it all the time. And the way we do it is that we have people who have bonds set for them routinely, who the judge, when they're doing it, knows they can't make it. But yet the actual offense and their criminal background is absolutely identical to somebody else's who has money. So the person with money gets to walk out of the jail. The other person sits with us. And I would suggest to you one day, as much as we've done remarkable things in the jail to make it a different environment, one day in the jail is not a good thing. And think about it from like our perspective here. You know, maybe some people here have been locked up, whatever, I don't really care. But for most of us, being locked up doesn't happen too frequently, okay? Think about how you feel when you're pulled over on a speeding ticket. Now that's something I have had many times. Just think, even when I get pulled over, I have a strong suspicion I'm probably not going to go to jail. But nonetheless, when you're pulled over and you got those lights behind you on the side of the road, you know, your heart sinks and you're just feeling like, oh my God. What do you think someone feels like who's sitting in a jail? And more importantly, what do you think about somebody who sits in a jail often enough, routinely enough, where that's their normal? That's their normal. And that's what happens. And so for people who don't have money, they will sit in jail for extended periods of time. What's extended periods of time? As I suggest to you, one day, really not real good. The average length of time someone sits in the jail where their lead charge, the most serious charge against them is retail theft, and they have no violence in their background. The length of stay they stay is 99 days. If your most serious offense is criminal trespass to property, which means you broke in someplace, or more often than not, you won't leave a place. It's frequently homeless people who won't leave O'Hare Airport. It's always the same number. 96% of the people in the jail are waiting on a trial. So there's only a handful of people that are in there for usually DUIs that get a sentence of a couple weeks or a month or something like that. But so because of the transient nature of the population, these are people all waiting for trials, jails have never thought it was their job to program and try to work with people. Because the notion is they're only there a short period of time, and then they're going to leave, go to prison, and that's when they'll work on it. Two things. 85% of the people that enter our jail go right out the door back to the community. So they're not all going out to prison. So the majority, the largest funnel to the community is coming out of jails. But yet people who operate jails traditionally have always thought they're not the ones to try to fix the broken toys because, you know, that's going to be done somewhere else. Well, the whole theory didn't work. It makes no sense. You add to it that on average about 14% of the people have their cases dropped. So they sit there for a period of time and their case dropped. But the thing more importantly is, theoretically, once again, there is this robust judiciary where cases move along expeditiously. We don't have that in Cook County. It's one of the many, many reasons why the judges hate me. And we'll continue to do that. I just want to read this one series of numbers for you. I could do this anytime the numbers don't move around too much, but this past October we just did a snapshot of what was going on at the jail that day. Of all of our population on that day, the number of people that had been in the jail from 0 to 1 year was 6,400 people. 1 to 2 years, 1,300 people. These are all waiting on their trial. 2 to 3 years, 563 people. 3 to 4 years, 237 people. 4 to 5 years, 103 people. 5 to 6 years, 26 people. 6 to 7 years, 9 people. 7 to 8 years, 7 people. And we had 2 people that had been in there up to 9 years, between 8 and 9 years waiting on the trial. So here you have these people that are dumped in there for these myriads of offenses. You have a theoretical notion that jails are not where you're supposed to fix people, so you just warehouse them, you hold them there, and then you spew them back out onto the street. Well, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to have 2 things happen. One, when they go back to the communities, and virtually all of them are heading back to their community. There is the rarest case when they're hopping on a bus and heading off to Harvard to finish their, master's degree. So they're heading back to that community. They're worse off than when they came in. That's A. But think about this for a second. If you were one of those folks who's sitting in there for this indeterminate period of time, waiting on this sort of illusory trial that's going to occur or not occur, what is the feeling that you think you're taking away from that experience? You're taking away that the criminal justice system's broken, it doesn't care about me, and that I'm just someone who is just another number. And so that type of mindset then goes back to these communities too. And so when you start thinking about why is there so much upset and anger in many communities when it comes to the criminal justice system, it has never worked for them. Objectively, it hasn't. And not because of their twist on how it should work for them. It hasn't worked on what anybody in this room would analyze it, how it should work. It should be an efficient system that moves along expeditiously. The only people being held are dangerous people. That has never been the case, though. And so inherently, around the country, this is not unique here, these criminal justice systems do not work for large members of our community. And so with that, you find lots of anger, and it is well placed. And so it's incumbent upon us that if we don't want to be these generations that are looked upon with scorn, that we take it upon ourselves to start changing it. As I say, with us, we have focused like a laser beam on the mentally ill, the poor people. Mentally ill, we treat them like patients now. I told folks, if they're going to make me be the largest mental health provider in the country, I think I'm the largest mental health hospital now. If they're going to make me be the largest one, I'm going to be the best one. And so we treat them like patients. They have discharge planning. They have like files like you'd have at the end of your bed if you're in a hospital. When they're getting ready to leave, we get ready for them for the streets. We move them out to a different location that's a somewhat bucolic setting that's not on the jail compound. We work with them on housing. We work with them on their treatment. We work with them by showing them where they can go when they get back to the community, get their meds, where they can go for doctor's appointments. I've signed up 13,000 of them for Obamacare. So they have insurance cards now. And then when they leave, if they can't get to where they need to go, which happens frequently, I drive them there. It's not just, I have an order to release you, out the door you go. No, we will get you to someone that cares about you. And so we put this thoughtful model in place for them, and it's been working marvelously. The downside of it truly is, I talk to a lot of these guys, and it's mostly men, often, and the real downside is they will tell you flat out the best treatment they get is with me. And once again, what incredible indictment that is of our society. The best place for care is the jail. And so we have taken that on with a lot of relish, and we continue to push the envelope on that. It's miserable around the country. We're the best. And now we've been really pushing the envelope on the poor people. And so I actually, as painful as it was, I went down to Springfield the last 2 years in a row and got some legislative changes in place where they now have a timeline. So the bill I came up with, and I literally dreamed it up as I was wandering through one of these living units where people were sitting there for no reason. And I thought to myself, well, I could go and try to do some nonsensical thing with the judiciary, which would just waste a lot of my life. Or I can come up with something that you can't really get around. And so what we did is we came up with something called the Rocket Docket, just made it up. It says that if you're charged with retail theft, criminal trespass to property, possession of drugs, or motor vehicle cases, that they have 30 days to try you. And at the end of the 30 days, you get released. They can still play around with the case if that's what they choose to do, to waste people's money, but at least you're not going to sit in the jail anymore because you're poor. And so because of that, we got 2 of those offenses done last year. We've got, I think, about a couple hundred people out of the jail as a result of that. We're now expanding it to do more. And so we're really focusing on trying to put ourselves in the position of people sitting there, saying to ourselves, now how can we make this to be a more thoughtful system for them? So I could go on for hours about this stuff because we have usually an idea a day. My staff hates me, not because I'm that difficult to deal with, but I always have a new idea. And it's usually driven by what I'm seeing going on around me and ways that we can somewhat make this a more thoughtful, humane system. And it's just really, really doable. It really is. But it's going to be incumbent upon people like yourselves to take on this challenge and to understand it's broken, understand you're going to upset a lot of people by talking about it. But at the end of the day, it's really how all of us are going to be judged years from now. Thank you guys.